Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here tonight to participate in this conversation. My name is Caroline BPJ, as you've had. I'm a wife, been married for 9 years. I'm also a holistic health coach as well as a nurse. Thank you.
Okay, very good, Carol. Thank you. And obviously, Carol will stand by. We'll be joined with Anton Kamnei to give a female perspective later, especially when the men make any mistakes. So be taking notes there, Carol, for us, so that we can hold these gentlemen accountable. Guys, again, and I'm going to request here again for our viewers, if you have any question and or comment, we are live on Facebook at KDRTV. If you could go there, make your comments and or question, we'll have those questions for the panelists later on the show. We're also available on YouTube. If you could, please go there as well. If you have any comments, do so. But more importantly, please like us and comment, subscribe. We really need your support. Also, we are now live on Twitter. If you could use our handle to ask any question, particularly if you want your question to be answered, please go on handle KDRTV live for any question that might be answered. Again, guys, this is a very touchy subject. You're right, Professor Ndiang'ui. It's a very touchy subject, especially when you talk about the African immigrant community here in the U.S. and actually around the world. But again, as you said, it gets to a point sometimes where we say, we got to face this head on. And I think that's what the two of you do. I have to applaud you for really taking this on. And a lot of people watching across the country, both male and female. But when I engage, yes, there's an emotional part of it. But also we need to focus on substance, because it's not just about us, it's about our community and the future. But if you could, Professor Ndiang'ui, put this in context. When we talk about male feminism, what does that really mean?
Mm-hmm. Thank you. But before I even get to that, Jeremiah, as I just pointed out, before I even try to describe what all that is about, this is not an easy conversation. It's actually a little bit uncomfortable. And even to get here, it's like I am in a process. And when I talked to my brother Opande that we can talk about this, we are a bit nervous, but we said, let's do it. Comfortable.
So,
and even to get here, it's like I am in a process.
Sorry.
And I talked to my brother Opande that we can talk about this. We are a bit nervous, but we said, let's do it.
Oh, what's happening here? Okay, go ahead.
Even to get here. All right.
Okay.
So
sorry.
I'm hearing a lot of sound there. But
okay, sorry.
The point is this. Oh, that's okay? Okay, good.
Go ahead.
Right. So thank you, Brother Laban Opande, for doing this with me. Thank you, Jeremiah. Thank you, Robert Shirley, and all the other people, and I hope the other people are listening. When I accepted this, I accepted it on behalf of many women in my life, particularly my wife now, my mother, my late mother. I'm a mama's boy, and more so, some young girls who are my many nieces, wherever you are, Wango, Jane, Shiro, and many, many other young ladies who look up to me sometimes. And I wanted to know I had the courage to do this. So what is feminism? That's what you asked. Yes. This is my perception, and this is what has been described. It's nothing more than just talking about equality. Like everything else that pertains to diversity, all that we are saying is, why don't we treat everybody equally? Why don't we recognize that women have rights just like men that should be treated the same way? All that we are asking is, give everybody a chance. And if we are asking about other aspects of diversity, like, let's say, racial diversity, when you talk about, let's say, Black Lives Matter, meaning that Black people should be treated equally like the white people, it's the same thing. There's no difference. It's treating everybody the same way, treating everybody equally. And our women need to get the respect to be treated equally like the men. The premises is it's skewed. Many aspects of society, as you see later on as we move on, is skewed towards men. And this is not the natural order. This is not even a divine order. This is created as a social construct by the people, mainly by the male, to kind of put the women subordinate. I'm not going to put down anybody. All that we are saying is, let's treat everybody equally. That's what it's all about. And when I understood feminism in that context, that's what we're going to talk about. And I'm not ashamed. I'm not trying to say everybody should be given equal opportunities. And that's what I believe this is all about. Thank you.
Well, that's very interesting take. Obviously, again, thank you for acknowledging those very important people in your life. We do the same. Wakilo Opande, also put that in context of the African communities.
Here again, and Professor Ndiang'ui has spoken so eloquently, so well. I think we as a society are in constant evolution, in the sense that we are evolving in how we relate with each other between the different age sets, between the two genders. And so we have to accept the reality of time, how time has evolved and where we are right now. So if we think about, perhaps our African culture, if I would use that as an example, and how the woman was perceived to be versus a male, and how it has been a struggle for the woman, the girl child, as they say, over the years, and to the extent that now we have leading um, women in various sectors, in business, in science, in education, in leadership. It's really how life moves, and we have to accept it, that we are the same. So whatever qualities that we used to measure life with in terms of long time ago and where we are now are not existent anymore. So I'm married, to my dear wife, Rosemary. I don't have a daughter, but I have sisters and I have nieces. And of course, my mother is there. And I have colleagues who are women, and we work and we relate. And the way we look at them and the way we relate with them is not necessarily on a superior inferiority perspective, but as a core partner, as someone who can perform just as good, if not even in some instances, better than a man can perform. So I think it's, I guess, to kind of put it in context, it's we as an immigrant community here in America, having been raised in a society that sometimes tend to give more focus on the boy child than the girl child, and now being where those discriminative things that people used to have are not there anymore. We should open up and embrace, the woman, and embrace what they do, and acknowledge what they do. I mean, right now, in fact, if you would go to many places where there is a woman in leadership, or a woman who is leading an effort, I would be not be shocked to say that you find that they are doing much better. I was watching recently something on social media, and they were showing countries that have been led by women in the current fight against the pandemic. And interestingly, all those countries have done way much better than the countries that have been led by men. So anyway, we'll continue the discussion, but that's why I'm coming out to also embrace the woman, and support them. And once you do that, it's an empowering feeling, because you're not in competition with them. It's really just about supporting each other.
So key point here we underscoring, and I want to make sure that our viewers get the point, is that what we are saying is, yes, the women have their rights, men have their rights, but there are men, yes, who also believe that the women have their rights. So if you're a man who believes that the women have the rights, just like anybody else, you are a male feminist. Of course, later we'll have a time when we can talk about the different schools of thought relative to the topic we're talking about. But also it's important, before we go further into the discussion, to acknowledge that this discussion is also sponsored by the One Voice Consortium, a very able organization, Kenyan organization, led by our able chairman, Dr. Shiori, who is standing by and give a comment much later in the show. So again, if you have any comments, positive or otherwise, please feel free to do so on our site. Again, Peter, you are talking about culture, both of you. We recognize that culture, yes, is never static. Culture is dynamic. It does evolve. And we're focusing more primarily on the African diaspora community. When you talk about what an African person was 10, 20, or 100 years ago, it's pretty much not the same as is today. So put us in context, Peter. What are the key elements, for example, that one could consider to be good? And let's focus on relationship. I'm sure our community has asked a lot of problems surrounding relationship. What key elements do you think people should consider when you're talking about relationships?
Thank you, Brother Opande, because culture is evolving. And many cultural values that we have upheld relate so much to the relationship between men and women, starting from the biblical point of view or other cultures that assume man is superior than the woman. In that, I find something a little bit wrong with that. We have different roles, and there are many things I know my wife does better than me, and I'm sure there might be a few things here I can do better than her. But in reality, I cannot assume she's higher than me or I'm higher than her. We all play different roles. We're just doing different things. And I think we are happier knowing the strengths of each person, knowing the weakness of the other person, and I have many. And that way we deal with each other in a better way in a relationship. If we don't appreciate that, this is where we have had problems. And because it's as if we are competing with each other. And that's where domestic violence starts. People who are very intimate spousal violence starts. But this starts very early. When you think about it, what language do we teach our children? I talked about my nieces and my nephews and my sons here. What do we tell them? You never tell the child that the girl is inferior to the boy in any way. As you bring up your children, the relationship we are equally good. And actually, as I move on, and I hope this will not be too controversial, even when think about the marriage, the very beginning, we have created a situation in our cultures where the girl has to wait for the boy to ask. The girl cannot ask. Most cultures, even in the Western world. I remember we were joking with another lady we were in class with, and she saw my wife. She said, "I'm so glad you married a good wife." Why? You know how much I waited for you to ask me? I wanted you to marry me, and you did not. Then I am asking her, why didn't you tell me? We probably would have been different. Well, like we not, what would people think? And that hurt. We laughed about it. She's married well and married well. Then later on we said, it's okay, we never talked about it. But think about it. Why can't the girl ask if she likes the man? Let's start there. In the relationship, right from church, there's something I find very interesting, and we joked about it in my wedding. The vow, obey. She promises to obey, I promise to love her. As soon as we walked out, when we get to the limo, I am telling her to sit on this side, and she says, no, I want to sit this side. I said, hey, you just said that you can obey me. We laughed about it. But why would we have that? I didn't even want her to obey me anyway. She said where you are comfortable. But you see those kind of relationships. If I was going to be so keen on that. The other thing I want to say, in relationships, there are gender roles that are rather artificial. And this is the premises of what you're talking about. Masculinity and money are not one. If she earns more money, it's good for the family. If I earn more money, it's good for the family. It's our money. But if she's earning the money, think it's hers, and the money mine is mine separate, that starts conflict. That creates conflict. Once you accept, it's okay. If she gets more money, she becomes RN or whatever she becomes, and she gets more money, it's good for you. It's good for your children. It's good for your families. You have a happier relationship. There's even economic empowerment, and that's why we picked this topic, that male feminism is empowering to the man because you have something together. Support your wife to grow. You're not competitors. That's the big issue, my friend. And if you create a competition in a relationship, you're going to have a lot of problems. She's with you. She's your partner. She has things she's very strong in. There are things you're strong in. You have weaknesses. She has weaknesses. Support one another. You'll be happier. You'll be more empowered. A more just home is more empowering, is a happier home. Let me stop at that point.
Oh, that's good. And thank you for chipping in. Again, I can't stop reminding our viewers, if you have any question and or comment, please put that question on our Facebook page. Our technical guys, Ben, will get those questions and comments for discussion here. Laban, let's take the emotion away. And again, as I said, culture is dynamic. I always say to my students, when we talk about culture or any society, there's the learning process, there's unlearning process, there's also the relearning process. I think the way our mind can context are made is to believe that the man has to be A, B, C, and D. But the truth is, particularly in the diaspora, it's a totally different ballgame, whether you're looking at it from a legal standpoint, culture, or otherwise. For your view, when you're talking about male feminists, what are the key elements really you want to focus on?
My elder Professor Ndiang'ui has spoken some of that, but the key thing about, let me use this as an example first of all, and I think we can relate to this, many of us who are listening or who are here, whereby we know of a family where the lady, because of the nature of the family setting, the lady goes to college, she's able to get a job quickly, she's able to sustain the family, and then the man is now able to go back and also find a job and be able to do what? To support the family. Now, for a lot of people, they would say that I would not allow my wife to go to school and get a degree before I do, because then I will feel as though she's superior to me. Again, this is what we're talking about. It's not a competition, it's complementary. So if you plan in your household and you say, well, you are better positioned to go ahead and do XYZ, whatever it is you have in your life plans. And the game plan is, once you do it, then then I'm able to be empowered, because now you are able to either take care of me or take care of the children or take care of the bills. Now I'm empowered myself to go back and do whatever that I wanted to do. If you keep the mentality that doing so, and this is what we're trying to demystify, this thing about male feminism, or trying to say that as a man you ought to be at the top. If you're able to follow that game plan as a family, you will succeed than if you try to put the woman down, yet she's better positioned to provide or to get a better place, and then empower you later to be able to come and chip in and help in the family. So, but anyway, so the issue here is, I think, that culture we're talking about. You come here as an African immigrant, the culture is very different. Here, the law doesn't look at you in terms of your social setting differently because you're a man or a woman. In fact, this country does have uh, civil rights laws which protect people from being discriminated based on your gender. In other words, if you are here and you are an educator and I'm an educator, if we're being hired, I should be looked at the same way as a lady who is being hired ought to be looked at. And it's and if you don't do that, then you subject yourself to potentially being sued, because of, discriminating. Now, the other jobs that we have been knowing growing up in Africa, in terms of the manual, the masculine strength that required, we rarely have those. Where are you going to be in the fields plowing, land? Where are you going to be in the fields chopping wood? We don't do that. So obviously, if it's going to HEB to buy wood, is the same thing that the woman can go and do it. I mean, so there's really no difference in terms of those chores that we used to have that were defined as the male, and then now these are the women. Now, I know President Ndiang'ui talked about cooking, and I know he's going to come back to that. But whereby some African men is almost taboo to be in the kitchen, and yet if you go out there, most of the top hotels that you would find, most of the top chefs that you would find out there are men. Yet we want to take ourselves away and say that the kitchen is the woman's place. Now, all right, there are some things that you can do, and it's okay to respect it if that's what she wants to do. But there come scenarios because of the dynamics we have. Your wife has been working a 12-hour shift, and you've been sitting at home, watching CNN or whatever it is that you're watching all day. And then you say you're going to wait for her to come and cook because she's the wife and the kitchen is her place. And yet you can cook. You cook for yourself before you got married. For the many years that you were with your roommates, you were the one who was cooking. But now, because you're married, now you say that's a woman's role and you can't do that. No, it's complementary. If you're able to find time and support your wife when she comes home and you're able to have food for her, that's great. If she's the one who is doing it for you, not doing it just because you are the husband, but because she's your partner, then that's good. You're empowered. You're empowered in the sense that you have time to do other things, time to rest, and those kind of things. I know I'm kind of long-winded because the subject is very, very wide, but I think you get it.
Caroline is standing by and she's taking notes to see exactly what the men are saying. Caroline, please keep taking those notes. We need you. Now, as we do this, let me throw in the numbers here. Again, culture is dynamic. Things have changed. We have to recognize this. And I was sharing this thought with other friends the other day, and you can look these numbers. In this country, 2.3 million men are stay-at-home dads. In other words, the wives are working, but the men are home taking care of the families. 2.3 million. Now, relative to what we are saying, Peter, the conversation amongst our community, which is really problematic, is when a woman is going to graduate and get a degree, there is that mentality from the men perspective that what you expect next is a divorce. So there are two Ds. Woman gets a degree and the man gets a divorce. Now, how do you change that mentality, especially knowing that our women will say, not speaking for them, will say, no, I want a man, a real man, not somebody who's going to sit here at home. How do you compromise that?
I'm glad you bring in the statistics. When we are talking about this, remember, Brother Opande, that we can do it. We realize we are not alone. 2.3 million men are now the ones staying at home and taking care of the families because they realized that the women may get a better income. If we want economic empowerment of the home, we have to look at who can sacrifice, who can we sacrifice, which salary can we sacrifice. And if it's the man's salary which is lower, the income is lower, and the woman can bring more money, why not? Why not? The important thing to understand is there's nothing wrong with you spending time in the kitchen. Let me talk about this here. Most of the time I spend here because as a professor now we do so many things online. Most of my classes are in Zoom. I have my 2 sons and 1 nephew here. They are all college students. They're all grown. My wife is the only one who has a 8 to 5 job. She leaves every Monday to Friday. And you expect her to come and we spend the whole day at home for her to come and cook. There's something wrong with that. And once in a while, of course, she wants to cook. But what we have even taught our children is your turn to cook. It's your turn to take care, clean up. And for me, I know Brother Opande talked about it a lot. I need to address the issue. Can you allow me to talk about the cooking? Because historically, I have a history about this. There are some types of food I liked. And I hope my sisters don't get this. But every time I got home, I would be told my mom, oh, you wait, your sister will come and cook. But I knew I can do a better job. I could cook, at least what I wanted to eat, by my own definition. But I have to wait, wait, hungry. And I can see the food, I can do this. And when they come to do it, I'm, hey, hurry up, I need to eat. And then we start having a quarrel. I could have just jumped into the kitchen and cook. And then every now and then, Mama would allow me to do it. And it is so exciting. I'm telling you, that thrill of cooking was so good and I enjoyed it. My brother talked about the time when the time that we're not married. It was probably a very good time because I was in control of the kitchen. I found the kitchen as a stress reliever. I enjoyed it. I may not be a very good cook. My wife is a much better cook. But I'm telling you, my time in the kitchen is enjoyable. It is something beautiful, taking an onion here, putting the piece of meat, and then you put them all together and you eat something good. It's fun. when I see people taking it like it's a woman's, domain, she's the only one who can do it, it's a woman's domain, I feel denied. Why would the whole world deny me the joy of just enjoying the power of nourishing myself, cooking what I like, feeling good about it? Why? And I realize you're talking about half the world are with me. It's about time people change, appreciate that, and feel good, because it's wrong. I didn't even understand from the youth why other people will not see how nice it is to cook. Now my wife accepted because she thinks she appreciates what I may not be as good, but I know she appreciates my food and she wants me to cook. There was a time she was telling me, "Thank you for cooking." I told her, "Don't tell me thank you. I'm just doing what I enjoy doing most." And I hope other men to realize that the women now, things have changed. My brother mentioned this. There was a time when power was associated with physical strength, and we must admit men are physically stronger. The biology were not even touched on that, and we can do that. But now, even with that law my brother talked about, we get other aspects: intelligence, creativity, innovativeness, planning. That's how we get the jobs. Our women from Africa rise much faster with RN and other jobs and teaching and all that. And we may not rise as much. Let her go and work. It's empowering for you. Economic empower. It's not her money, it's the money for the family. You cook, you clean that house. It's nice. There's a nice feeling. She even enjoys it to see you cooking. It's a nice feel. Maybe other women may not, but I know my wife appreciates me cooking. Thank you.
Key point, I know it's a touchy subject, but we really need to start this conversation. The best way we can create a society and a good community for us is to engage in this very constructive conversation. So the two of you agree on a fairly contentious point here, and I'm going to bring you in, Laban. You and Peter agree that time has come. If half the world says men can't cook, Peter is saying that's unfair. But both of you also saying, well, it's time a girl goes to school, works out, and goes out there, finds a man. So I have daughters. So you are telling me, as a man, that's me, but men watching this, they're saying, well, I'm talking to my daughter. I'm going to say, my daughter, go out there, find a good looking guy, tall, whatever it is, making good money, and make the proposal. Is that what you're suggesting? And how do we change the mentality of especially an African man to advise the daughter to go out there and find a man? Laban.
Yes. Thank you. That's a very interesting question. I think I don't have daughters, but I have sisters and I have nieces. And I think generally, I want to say this and have great conviction about this. Men are very biased against their wives, in favor of their daughters, in favor actually of any other woman except their spouse. I could be very wrong, but I truly believe so. Because if it's something that has to do with the daughter, they're very protective, very, very jealously protective. Same as the mother, very, very protective. But when it comes to the spouse, your partner, your co-partner, then there is always this friction that is going on. And that's not a good place to be, because whatever that you'd want to happen to your daughter or to your mother, it should be the same thing that you'd want to happen to your wife. But to come to your question about telling the girl to go out there and get married. Now, we also, as we said from the beginning, that uh, times change, times evolve. And of course, you want to, maintain that social setting of, having married and having children so that you can continue the heritage of and the traditions of your people. But at the same time, you don't want to make it that you have pressure. And I think this is also a very touchy subject, because the moment you start telling your daughter, I don't have one, but I can imagine if I was to start telling my daughter that you need to go start finding a husband, it can come out quite negatively. However, uh, what Professor was talking about, if the daughter, if your niece knows there is a man out there that she likes, and she wants to ask, why not ask? He was just talking about how this lady from is back in school never asked, she had interest in him, but she never asked. So I don't think there's anything wrong, and I think the times have changed now. I don't see it very strange for a woman to show interest. If you are interested in a man and you believe this is a good partner for you, why not? Why not go ahead and ask? I mean, there's nothing wrong, because you'll miss that chance and you'll be in the same shoes that my elder brother Peter was when that lady didn't ask, and maybe the world would have been different. Anyway, he's doing well for himself, so I'm sure everything turned out okay, just fine. But anyway, the point is, I think the times have changed. We don't have to live the same traditional way. Now, having said that, though, there are things that we as men still have to maintain cognizant of. That you're not called a gentleman just because you happen to be of a male gender. It is also the kind of approach that you use towards the woman counterpart, whether it's going to be your spouse or whether it's going to be your neighbor, a female neighbor, whether it's going to be a coworker or whatever the case may be. The manner in which you handle yourself, the respect, the dignity, the care that you show towards them is what gives you the title of a gentleman. And doing so, you're not doing it because you feel that you're in a superior position, but only that you're giving respect, just like you would give respect to your son, or you give respect to your father, or to anybody within your network. So anyway, so I think I kind of get drifting because this subject can go, far and keep going. But if I want to narrow down, I would say that the girl child can be free to ask. A girl child can go and get, and like you said, the numbers you talked about, the men who are at home now. If the woman is the one who is able to have a higher pay, why not? Why not? I mean, empower her by driving her to work, and let her make the money. And then she empowers you. Maybe when you're at home, you can also get on Zoom and do another class or whatever it is that you need to do to empower yourself. And that's the whole thing. But if you look at it in terms of competition, then that's when you'll never move anywhere, because you wouldn't even allow it to happen. You will not even allow it in the first place. You will not even give her the chance to go and find that job, Yeah.
And with this, we acknowledge this particularly in the US. All indications are that women are doing much better. In fact, as a professor, you as well, you know well that almost 56% of graduate students or graduates in the US are women. In fact, those who have doctorates are higher than that. And that number is projected to grow over time, meaning our women are likely to grow socially and economically much faster than the men. So Opande is talking about the girl child, but also there is the boy child here. How do you prepare him as a parent and as a professor to go through the difficulties that we have, and then later on marry a woman who potentially is better placed socially and economically? At the same time, how do you convince your daughter, for example mine, to go out there and find a guy who is not that educated, doesn't have that job? How do you really? I know that.
Dr. Jeremiah, let me just start with these premises. Marriage, which is forever, because it should be forever, there's no DD business. It should be forever, at least. It should be designed forever. Making that decision is a very, very serious decision. Picking the person you spend all your life with is not easy. And I'm quite sure each one of us, every individual, has some characteristics they would like to see in their life partner. And I believe, because culturally that's the way it has been, that the man is the only one to ask. So the man determines the characteristics he wants in a woman, and then approaches that woman who has those characteristics. But maybe the woman he approaches may not have wanted the man with his characteristics, and therefore you find the man wins, gets what he wanted, but the girl does not want to get what she wants. And so she is forced into this relationship, which she did not want because this is not the kind of person she was looking for. And so you find a problem. And because the man is the one who determined the wife, the woman he wanted, maybe a woman who will see him as the king, then he wants to be treated like that. But the woman may not have wanted that kind of man. Such a decision, I have a problem with the Kasha, which determines that half of the world's population, or even more because women are more generally, does not have a say in determining, in making a decision which is so serious, who is going to be your life partner. I think, my friends, it's time to change. I think there is nothing wrong with a girl going out and saying, this man has the characteristics I've been looking for. Can we get along? And then you date and then you do what you want. And we should encourage our daughters to do the same. I'm not telling them to get into intimacy or something like that before marriage. I'm a believer in sex after marriage or stuff like that. But why don't we let our girls be also controllers or determinants into their partner? Because now they're waiting for this guy, and maybe Mr. Right will never come. And then she gets somebody who does not, and then very soon the other D comes in. And talking about the other D, if the man is intimidated by the women empowerment, by the degree, and I'm telling my daughters and they are listening here, or they are trees listening little on the ones in Kenya. If the woman is intimidated by your success, the man is intimidated by your success, that's not your man. Because there are going to be problems. You don't have to get into a relationship just to be called Mrs. So-and-so. If the man is not the right person, that is trouble. If the woman is not the right person, that's trouble. But remember, the man determines and gets probably the person he wants. The girl has a right, and I'm a believer that there's something wrong with the way the Kasha is. The girl does not take part. She has to wait for him to come. And Mr. Right may never come. She should go out if she likes him. Whether it is in the classes I have, I want the woman to be empowered. But I also want her to have the power in making a decision in who she wants to spend the rest of her life with. That should not be a difficult decision. But unfortunately, Kasha, in those gender laws, the woman should not ask. People will think it's almost as if there's an amorphous thing there called people, which determines what you have to do. Because you're a girl, you cannot ask. Why not? If you like him, if that girl had asked me, maybe it would be different. But I'm happy with what I got. I'm glad what I got. But I hope my wife, if she was also looking, she was happy with what she got. But at the end of it all, I do hope girls go out. And I want to tell my nieces here, those who are not married, go out for a man who is a male feminist. If you like him, go bring him to me. Let me interview him. Let me talk to him too. Thank you.
Okay, so in a moment, I know we're gonna bring Carol. Carol is standing by so that she can spice up. Sometimes men get to this. Carol, in a moment, we're going to bring you on so that you put this man into their rightful place. Okilo Pande, there is potential stigmatization around this subject on both ends, male and female. Now, there are women who will say, Carol, again, forgive me if I go wrong here. Well, I need a strong man. That's period. There's no negotiation about it. That story ended. But at the same time, there are men and women who might say the idea of male feminism is synonymous to being quote unquote womanizer or something like that, or you're weak. How do you debunk those kind of potential stereotypes in the community? Because really we need to move forward, not just as two parties. That's why we're talking about one voice. How do we really debunk such kind of stereotypes so that going forward, we really work towards building a better community for us?
Dr. Okari, when someone is saying they want a strong man, what exactly are they saying when they mean strong? Strong in what? If you are strong in mind as a man, where you are able to work with your wife and she is able to go to work and you stay home, that is a strong man. If you're able to accept that that is okay because of your family equation and you're not dealing with what Professor is saying, people out there will say this. People out there are watching. People are going to say this. If you're able to withstand that, that is a strong man. The weak man is the one who pretends that they are strong, okay? But ideally, really, they're insecure. And that's exactly what Professor was saying. Someone who cannot see them in a position whereby the woman is the one who is bringing the bacon home. That is an insecure person. Someone who believes that the only way the family functions is if they're the ones who are making more money. That is an insecure. That is not a strong man. So I don't know what that means by saying when a woman says that they want a strong man. Like I said at the beginning, we are not going to a shamba to plow 5 acres, using your muscles so that you can measure the strength of your man. No, I mean, we're talking about my belief is you're strong if you're able to put your family together. You're strong if you're able to help your wife to plan your family setting. You're strong if you're able to help the community. You're strong if I don't know which other measure of strength that you can be using for the woman to say that they want a strong man. So I really don't know. Now, this is the other thing I think I must bring up before you bring up the other guest, Daktari. So again, living with the culture, and I guess for us here, the community leaders and people who have access to some life perspectives, is important to share. When we have those kinds of mindsets, especially as new immigrants who come to this country, and you want to live in this country as though you lived back in Africa because you're the man. And by doing so, very soon you find that you're in the wrong side of the law. And we know, I'm sure the viewers and even us who are in this panel know of people who have gotten in trouble through what Prof was talking about, the family violence. And the man does not realize that, listen, by you doing what the woman is saying is not necessarily putting you down, but it's to help each other to do and support your family. And so because you start that conflict, many of our men have ended up being in jail. Many of them have ended up even being dead. Many of them have even packed up and left and went back home. Why? You have a beautiful family here. Your wife is here. Your children is here. Your wife is doing what she's doing. That is empowering, So I think we need to educate ourselves. We need to educate our people that when you are here and we have all these opportunities that women can bring and women can do, all we can do is just to support them. And by supporting them, trust me, we are supporting the larger community. We are supporting, of course, our children who are within our household, but then our extended relatives and the community at large. So I think it's important that as we have these discussions, that men don't feel that you'll be looked down upon if you are supporting your wife and if you take a lesser role in the family setting just by mere dynamics of how you live. And so therefore in the end game, you come out better. In the end, if you're able to save and you go and buy a house and it's your house and it's a family house, how is that not empowering to you? If you're able to save and buy a plot, where you can go and build your house, how is that not empowering to you? Who is going to live in that house? I mean, whether that house is in your name or your wife's name or whatever, it doesn't matter. It's your home. And you've been enabled by your spouse who is in a position to help you to acquire that. So I think it's important we discuss these things and we encourage each other as men that let's embrace the woman, let's embrace our wives and our sisters, because this is the era we live in. We don't live in the old age whereby it's muscles that determine the strength. Women are very, very bright. They are in every sector of life, from, like I said, from medicine, whatever it is, they're there. And they're very, very, very resourceful. Yeah.
Bring in Carol. Professor, as we bring in Carol, get Carol ready to achieve me to spice this thing up. So, Peter, you're going to add to the same, but also let's define for purpose of this discussion, let's also expand the definition of family. Family doesn't mean me and my wife and my kids. Really, let's look at the extended family of immigrants. The more we see our brothers and sisters go to jail, as Opande is saying, the more we see families break, the more we see kids dropping out of school. Short term, it's emotional, but long term, that's very tragic on our end. You want to make a comment on that, and then we can bring in Carol to really spice this up.
The strength you talked about. I think I've realized I'm a very strong man. Why? Because I know my weaknesses, and I have a lot of them. And once I acknowledged what I am able to do and what I cannot do, it gave me strength. That if, let's say, my wife says you can't do it, I know I can't do it, I'm not as good. It's not emasculation. She's not putting me down. It's just what is within my power. And there are things I do very well, and there are things she does very well. Once you accept yourself, once you get to know who you are, you will be a better person. You will be more comfortable. And the family, and this is what is good about, and Laban, thank you for all those words. Thank you for bringing us together. Because we are all family. We have traveled far, my people, to be here. When you hear somebody is killing one another, it's our family's loss. We have lost as Kenyans, we have lost as Africans, we have lost people. We need to care for one another. And remember, network a little bit more. Reach out to other people. You are not alone. And wives, don't look down on your husbands. If he's just not bringing enough money, it doesn't make him less empowered. Let him go to school. Let him do something else. Support him. Support one another. It is not money that makes you. It is not the cars you drive. It is not the houses. I don't want to be like Laban Opande. He doesn't want to be like me. Let's just enjoy what we have and appreciate it, not the material well-being. Thank you.
Now, then we bring in Carol to spice it. Carol, the men are talking and talking and talking and talking. I think your voice is important. Let's acknowledge your presence. Much thanks for coming on, and also acknowledge that you're representing a very powerful group of Kenyan women in the United States, Kwiru, and many other organizations. Again, extend our appreciation for the wonderful job they're doing. So, two quick questions for you to begin with. These gentlemen are talking about male feminism. To you, does this concept even exist? Should it exist? And looking at it from your female perspective, how should we approach it?
You, Dr. Okari, Attorney Opande, and Professor Ndiang'ui. Thank you so much. This is a conversation that's needed. And to answer your question, I didn't even know the term existed, but I lived it because I grew up in a household where my dad, every Saturday morning, he made breakfast for us. And Sunday evening, he made dinner. And he would always, I have one sister and two brothers, and he would always tell us, if your mom is tired, we all get in the kitchen to help her. So I didn't even know that was a term, but absolutely, we need this in our community, and especially here in the diaspora. And I also want to thank my husband. He's a male feminist because I work in the healthcare industry. He's also a nurse as well, and we work different days. So when he's off, he'll be home cooking, cleaning, and that is my perspective of a strong man. You know, he knows I've been working, and we alternate, we respect our roles, you know. But the really important thing as Africans in the diaspora is to understand a lot of our culture has played a role in some of the things that we've seen happen in the diaspora. But having this conversation will help us move forward because, quite frankly, the pandemic has really disrupted a lot of our lives. Where, as you said, Professor Ndiang'ui, that 2.3 million men are home and they're spending more time with our children. And we don't have children yet, but for me, the way I look at that, they're spending time with their children and they're emotionally investing time with their kids. So use that time to really bond with your children, have those conversations. And if your son wants to be a nurse, let him be a nurse. You know, don't try to have him do something else. Let him be a nurse. If your daughter, the girl child, as you talked about, if she wants to be an astronaut, encourage her to do that. But one of the things that is quite important is understanding that as a family unit. Remember why you got married. Remember the vows, for better or for worse. So if your husband or your wife loses her job, encourage her. If your husband loses his job, encourage and build him up. And as women, I want to put out a word to women. Please, let's be mindful of how we speak to our men. And if you could allow me to share a few verses in the Bible, Proverbs 31, we read about the woman who she was an entrepreneur, took care of her household, took care of her husband. And actually, the Bible does not say what kind of work her husband did, but she respected and took care of her husband. And going to the New Testament, Ephesians, I believe it's chapter 6, it talks about submit one to another. It doesn't say dominate. So we've got to respect each other and remember that we're in this together. We're building a family unit. We're not competing, and understanding and respecting each other's role. I'm so honored to be in this conversation, and I really thank you, gentlemen. I know this is a beginning of change, especially for us in the diaspora and hopefully back home, because we have a lot of great culture, traditions, but there's some that also need to change, and we cannot change what we don't acknowledge and start talking about. So that's my perspective. Thank you.
Gentlemen are listening. They are not listening to me. Now they are listening. That's what we're calling male feminism. They don't listen to me, they listen to you. So, Carol, if you don't mind, let me put this gentleman on the task, okay? I'm a professor, and I want to put him on the task. Laban Opande, I want to begin with you. If you had a single question to ask Carol, what could that be?
Let me see. Well, I think, first of all, Carol, thank you very much. I think she's been very eloquent and very, very precise and on point in terms of the woman perspective. But I think one of the main things, and especially in this country, and I'm not saying, that this is to you, but I guess you can help, in terms of the woman perspective. Again, this is now coming towards the men, whereby the outside influence. All right, I've had cases now. For me, because of the profession that I have, I do come across a lot of families that want to, break up or separate, divorce, and all that. And part of the problem that they say is outside influence. It's not always the only thing, but outside influence. The girlfriends, the girlfriends are coming in. Now the girlfriends are telling the girl, oh, you don't have to go home. We can go for happy hour. You don't have to stay home this weekend. We can go to Vegas. You don't have to, and then of course, if you are economically empowered as a woman, you tend to think, well, yeah, that's true. After all, I mean, I'm making the money. Why can't I go and enjoy my money? He's not working at all anyway. He's just laying at home. He's not doing anything, or anyway, he's just at home. Even though being home as a homemaker, our culture has not accepted that to be work. We call it just staying home, idling around at home, even when they have to take the kids to school and clean the house and cook and do all that stuff. What we would call a typical housewives would do. So the point I'm trying to come to is why, and I guess I shouldn't just put it on women only, because I think it's also on men. In fact, I think men live double lives. They live double lives. They have one life when they're with their male friends. They show the macho, the chest. They say, I don't do, my wife can't tell me this. This is what I do. This, then when they go home, they're very humble, to their wives, and they're very submissive, and they clean the house without any questions, and they take the trash out, and and no problem. But then for the man who does not understand that, who copies that wrong bipolar husband out there, they go with that at home, and then they end up breaking their family. So I guess the question that I would say would be, what would it take, for especially the woman, to be able to not to get on top of their heads, not to forget that they are part of a team, especially when they have become empowered, so that they don't end up looking down upon the man, and then of course start having the family issues. I think that's what I can ask for now.
I'll take that quickly, Carol. No, okay, go ahead.
So much, Attorney Opande, for that question, and I'll be quick, and because of time, I don't know how much time we have, but number one, you've got to be mindful of the company you keep around you. I think a wise man said, "You are the company of the 5 people you have." So reassess or assess, take stock of who you have in your life. Who are the last people? Who are the last 5 people that you called on your phone? Or someone you texted? Take time and reassess your life. And sometimes, and especially for those who are married, they get advice from people who are single. And you cannot give advice for places you've not been, And number 2, I would say you have to know who you are, and you have to really put a hedge of protection on your relationship. And yes, all relationships take time and to make it through. And this has been a really tough season. But if you need godly counsel or get a therapist, go get advice from therapists instead of your friends who may be single or have no clue of what's happening in your relationship. But also number 2, respect is everything. We've got to and speaking from a women's perspective, one of the things that I really am grateful for is my mom really told me, Caroline, your mouth can either break or encourage your husband. So make sure you're using your mouth or your lips, women, as weapons of encouragement. Don't break down your husband. Don't look down on him. If he loses his job, speak life. It's just a season that we're going through. And sometimes this season exposes things that need to change. But remember, it's about being in a team and not trying to prove a point. Thank you.
I know Wakil spoke, but I want to ask one quick question, 30 seconds for Carol, Peter, so that we have a balance. Quick.
Carol, I wish we had more time, but there's something you said that's very important: verbal abuse. We know in the kind of domestic violence that we have had, the women are beaten, the men beat the physical side. But the men say, lakini alinitukana sana, he abused me too much. I don't think there's room for either of them, either the physical abuse or the verbal abuse. None of them can bring harmony. And I wanted to ask you, because you represent organizations that are very powerful, Kenya Women in the United States, or Kenya Sisters, Kenya American Sisters Powerhouse. All those organizations are very powerful. I know you need to empower women, and that is as it should be. You must. The only thing, and I know it doesn't happen, I know many leaders there, and I love them very much. Please always be mindful that it does not, as you empower women, you also try to see how they can go back and empower their families. Because if they go too far and they look down on their men, then that's the force of the other deed. That's no good to her, no good to the family. What was meant to be for the good. So please, that's my only thing that I would ask you. When you go back there to the women groups, help them to even help the Kenyan to grow also. Let them encourage their men to join our men's group. Because there are other things we talk about without, on our own too. Thank you.
Let's take that question. That question for you. Maybe, Peter, you want to take that? Ben, bring that question up very quickly so that we respect the viewers as well. There's a question there if women should demand that level. Yes, there is a question very quickly for you. Carol, you can chip in later if you choose to. Do you believe it could be disrespectful for a woman to expect and demand this level of respect from a potential mate? How could this be accepted or seen by a man. So, Peter, you want to handle that very quickly, and then Opande, if you could.
Yes. As we said from the beginning, feminism, male feminism is equality, gender equality. If it is wrong for the man, it is wrong for the woman. If it's wrong for the woman, it's wrong. The potential mate is somebody you think you go the journey with throughout. It should be accepted. This is what we are talking about. Let's break these cultural barriers. We stop the woman selecting the mate who she thinks they can go together. It is not disrespectful to expect and demand what you want in your potential mate. You want a man who will support you. You want a man you will live with. You want who will respect who you are. You said that, Caroline. And I want also a woman who will do the same to me. So let's both check on each other. There's nothing wrong with that. Thank you.
Okay, I think that's well said, Ben. Unless we have another question, then let's have Opande chip in quickly.
Yeah, Thank you, Dr. Yeah, so I think respect always, anywhere where you're going to have the word respect, it's a mutual word. You cannot have respect which is one way, whether it's going to be towards a child, an older person, somebody of the opposite gender. It's a mutual thing. Now, you can also be assured that you earn it. You earn respect. You don't demand it. You can't tell someone you must respect me. No, you earn it by how you behave and how you talk and what you do, your acts to that person. That's how then you earn it. And so it's a mutual, it's a both way kind of thing. And so I don't know how you can say that it's disrespectful for a woman to expect or demand. No, there's no issue of demanding or expecting. Yes, you can expect someone to be respectful, but it's a mutual thing. Now, so I don't know the second part of the question. How do you expect this? How a man would take this? If well, I'm married, so I don't know, but I think I'm a reasonable, rational man, and so what I would expect is that by you showing me respect, I show you respect back. By I showing you respect, you will appreciate and respect me back. It's a mutual thing, and that's just how it is.
Okay, sounds good. Do we have Peter? Sorry, do we have Robert? Robert is on. So as we bring in Robert, so I think we're running out of time. This is a great conversation. I'm sure we're going to have one or two, three more series to talk about some of the deep questions that we have for our viewers. Again, feel free to comment on the comment section. We put all those together and then can prepare the next discussion next time. Hopefully it will be a balanced discussion between maybe two men and two women. I think that would be good for us. So before we finish up, Dr. Shuri, you're on. Your quick take on the discussion and way forward.
Hello? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes. Your quick thoughts about the discussion and way forward quickly.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Okari. What a conversation we have started here. Male feminism led by Professor Ndiang'ui and Laban Opande and the commentaries from Caroline Day. We are well fed this evening on this topic, and it's a topic that starts very well for One Voice. As you know, One Voice Consortium is an organization that has a vision to bring our diasporan people together, and so that we can improve their livelihoods and the lifestyles of the diaspora community. And there is no better way to champion one voice as championing that one voice in a family, because communities are made of families, and countries are made of communities. So we make our families stronger by having one voice, and one voice can be able to be that we are all the same within that family unit. And so this topic has been started very well. We appreciate you, Laban Opande. We appreciate you, Peter Ndiang'ui, and we appreciate our host, Dr. Jeremiah Okari, and the team at KDRTV for continuing to be the vessel that One Voice is using to get the message out there that we are going to continue being united. We are going to continue having dealing with cross-cutting issues that are important for the diaspora community. So this is just the beginning of a conversation that we want to go on. And I know these two gentlemen and other people will be on board in other future sessions that we are going to have, so that we can continue to learn and we can continue to share and we can continue to participate in things that bring us all together. Thank you so much. We'll be having other more sessions coming up, and Dr. Okari is going to mention some of the things coming up. Thank you so much, gentlemen and ladies.
Okay. Thank you. I think that, thank you, Dr. Opande. I think we appreciate your leadership. Thank you also. You're working extremely hard. I just want you to know that we appreciate the good job you're doing and the entire team at One Voice Consortium. Many thanks to you. And I think we are off to a good start. So, guys, I think we're just about to finish. If we could, let me have you 1 minute, make a closing statement. I'm sure it's holiday season. You want to pass a message to our diaspora community. Let's begin with the young one, Laban Opande.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. This has been a very educative, interactive. I really have enjoyed it. I hope to come back again sometime and continue discussing some of the items that we didn't speak. Thank you, One Voice Consortium, for arranging and trying to put our Kenyan family, the African family together in the diaspora. I think we have a moral obligation, we have a moral duty for those who have information that we can share with our people to help our communities to be stable, to help our children, especially now who are here, and sometimes who are even lost in the mix. And in fact, I think that's another topic for another day. But more importantly, to promote harmonious family setup in this country, so that we both are able to empower each other as men and women in a family setting, so that we can be able to achieve more. I think for people who may be struggling to try and fit in, because sometimes I think that's what it is, reach out to people who have lived around. If you're a new immigrant, African immigrant, reach out to people who've been around. Hang out with the right people. They'll guide you and tell you what you need to do. Be comfortable in your own skin. Our women are not competitors. They are our partners. They're the ones who we work for, and we want to grow our families together. So I think it's a team effort. If we take that perspective, we shall be way, way much further than if we took, those old mindsets and be stagnant in the many hundred years ago in these modern times that we live in. I want to convey my most sincere well wishes for the holidays, the Christmas coming up next week, and the New Year if we don't get to see each other. I wish you all God's blessing. Be safe where you are. And again, until we meet next time, I thank you all and stay safe. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Thank you, Dr. Ari.
As always, you're welcome. Let's bring in Carol. I think Carol's still there. Carol, if you don't mind making a closing statement, and as well wish our diaspora community. Okay. Carol?
Yes. Okay. Thank you so much, gentlemen. I appreciate you on behalf of all the women in the diaspora. We appreciate and applaud you, and we thank God for you. I also want to thank KDRTV for this opportunity, as well as One Voice Consortium for bringing us together. It's all about unity, having one voice. My closing statement is, remember why you got married. Remember why you're in that family. And remember that a house divided cannot stand. But most importantly, let's continue having these conversations, because it will spark a change. And I believe a shift has started to happen. Thank you so much. And I wish you all a Merry Christmas and a prosperous 2021.
On, I didn't expect to put you too much into the questioning you a lot from the gentleman. Apologies for putting you under pressure, but I think you did exceptionally well. And I can tell you as I bring in Peter Ndiang'ui that he's loving your background. He loves the kitchen. He like cooking. I'm sure he's going to invite himself and myself. So,
thank you.
Very, very good. Yeah, as always, we look forward to working with you in future engagements. And now let's have a closing statement from Peter Ndiang'ui.
Okari, you do such a fantastic job. As I said at the beginning, this is not a simple conversation. When I called myself male feminist, the number of people saying, "What do you mean by that? You not with this? And are you less of a man?" But I want to say this: being a male feminist is empowering. It is not emasculation. It's not looking down on the man. Yes, we must appreciate biological differences. They do exist. Men cannot give birth. Testosterone is greater in men. There's physical strength is greater. There's inner strength in men. Inner strength is greater in the women. There are many things we can be different. But once we identify what your strength is and what you can do better than the other one, you'll be happy to stick to your lane and come together in the same way. Male feminism does not mean that something has become less or greater than the other. We are the same. If we appreciate that times have changed, the gender roles that we normally talk about, they must change, like my brother Laban Opande talked about earlier on. We need to change. I saw a question there about men from Africa and they come to America and behaving like they are still in Africa. No, it is not the geographical location where you are. And I know there are people listening in Madakwai village or anywhere else. This topic applies to everybody regardless of where you are. It is not coming to America that changed me. I'm just who I am, as you can tell. I'm still that accent of Madakwai. My friends, last statement. A more just society, when everybody is treated equally, is a happier society, is a more productive society. Even if you are staying at home, we must remember that although there's no monetary payment being made, that's important. Respect the work being done. If we fell into a misfortune, whether it is the man or the woman, lift one another. I want to say the last words with my wife. Honey, Priscilla, thank you so much. That when it is me, when it's down, you always come up to say, we will get this out. And it is me. When I am up, you say, I did it. But I tell you, no, we did it together. And I hope I do the same for you. And I hope this is for you. And for all the other ladies, wonderful women and wonderful men, keep on empowering one another. We'll build a much better, a much happier, a more just environment for our children and for everybody in the community. Thank you again, KDRTV. Thank you, One Voice, for giving us this opportunity. Maybe when you come back again, you'll not be so nervous. Thank you, Laban. Thank you so much, Wakili. You do such an amazing job. And thank you for encouraging me to tell me we can do this, we can do this. And I think we did it the best we know how. We probably made mistakes. Caroline, thank you, my dear. You are such a powerful force. And thank you for the empowerment. Jeremiah and Ben and everyone at KDRTV, thank you, guys. Have a good evening.
Thank you. That's well said again, guys. I can't thank you enough. I think having this, it was a touchy subject. We were very nervous about it. And the only way I can tell that this must have gone fairly well is by seeing Carol shake her head like this. She's nodding. That means it went okay. That makes me feel I'm comfortable. And again, I can't thank you enough. It's been an honor talking to you. I'm sure there are going to be a lot of future engagements. Carol, many thanks to you. Thanks to Kwitu. Let them know that we're ready to work with you. Major issues to this platform for us to really discuss so that we can move forward. Again, Peter, as always, Laban, as always, many thanks. But also, I want to thank the unspoken hero, the unsung hero of all this, Ben Kebwato, the man who's working behind the screen. He doesn't show up on TV, but I just want to know the world to know that it's not me, it is Ben. He's a man who does this everything and his family. So Ben, again, on behalf of all the panelists and many people who watch this, many thanks to you, appreciation to your family, and I'm sure you really go down in history as a great contributor to our growth as a diaspora community. So again, many thanks for joining us again. We have quite a number of shows coming up, especially one on Sunday. We have that on screen. So again, join us on Sunday at that time, 10 8:20 Central Time, we'll be having a conversation around economic leverages and empowerment. Good number of people here who've done extremely good. Dr. Lucy Ndegwa Mackenzie will be on. We have Lafa Kilondo, and I'm sure they're watching this right now. They'll be on the show on Sunday. Lawrence Mariah as well will be on, and Mary Ann. I want to make sure I get that right. Gatti, they'll be here at 10 Central Time on Sunday, and they'll be talking about economic leverages and empowerment for the diaspora community. I hope you join us then on Sunday at 10 Central. Again, on behalf of the entire team here at KDRTV, many thanks to you. Have a great weekend and a happy holidays.